The following is a pre-recorded show. Welcome to Winning in Retirement with your host, Brian Akers, certified financial planner professional and founder of Akers Financial Group. Now, helping you win in your retirement, here's Brian Akers.
Good morning, I'm Brian Akers from Akers Financial Group, and we welcome you to Winning in Retirement. I'm a certified financial planner practitioner, and I have with me today from Akers Financial Group a certified financial planner practitioner, Alex Monk. Good morning, Alex.
I thought you were going to introduce yourself there, Brian.
Well, we both have the same designation, and it gives us the ability to be a financial CFP, a certified financial planner. Is just a great education, great follow-through on each and every year, 2 years, where we have to do continuing education to stay a certified financial planner.
Every year, man. Every year, got to stay sharp.
Yeah, and what's good about all that is that the financial advisors are required to study and keep up with what's going on. And many things change throughout the years, and you do have to pivot and have your retirement plan always ready to handle what's coming and what the laws are, the way they are. Today's show, what we've done is we put together a show called So You Are the Beneficiary. And the reason is that we are getting calls from clients that they say, so I'm the beneficiary. And then I said, that sounds like a great name of a radio show. And then I said, okay, beneficiary of what? And so what we're going to do today is Alex and I are going to talk about So You Are the Beneficiary. And basically what we're going to do is figure out, what do you do now? What happens? What's the process? Things to watch out for? Questions to ask? Are things taxable? What's the paperwork like? How does it all work? That's what today's show is about. Now, Alex, you're awake and ready to roll today?
I am, and we're going to keep us positive, because usually when you're the beneficiary, something bad happens.
Well, absolutely. I mean, someone passed away, and that person that passed away, it ends up the money ends up coming to you later.
Right. So it's a weird one for me.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, because it's always tough. Because you get to meet with these people, and a lot of times it's a hard conversation to have, and it's kind of the best and the worst part of our job, I think, is that we're able to be there for our clients in those tough times. But at the same time, it's always a tough story to deal with.
Yeah, there's been some extremely tough situations where someone's friend who might be their age suddenly passes away and gives them the money, and they're considering it like blood money they don't ever want to touch, and they don't know what to do with it. Right. Then there's other cases where people are sort of distant relatives, and they're like, wow, this is like sudden money, and they're sort of happy about the money, sad that aunt that they never met gave them money, that kind of thing. So there's all different ends of this. So what happens is this. So you get a call and says, oh, you're the beneficiary of an account. Now, it does depend on who is giving you that money. So there's some questions that you need to ask. What are some very important questions, just from basic to more complex?
So you got to start out. Who's it from? Is it from your parent? Is it from your uncle? Is it from your sibling? Is it from your friend? Because all of those, is it from your spouse? All those different answers or classifications can potentially and do definitely always impact your options, what you can do, what you can't do.
Yeah, so knowing, of course, the person the financial advisor is someone that you want to call and have this conversation before you really do anything when it comes to paperwork or any decision. That financial advisor is going to guide you through, well, what is it? Who passed away? And that's something, obviously, you'd know. We'd have to get date of death to know what year they passed away, the month and day. It's all very important, and we'll try to explain that during the show. But also, you need to understand your connection. Now, in Maryland, if you are your grandparents, parents, and kids up and down, there's really no inheritance tax unless you hit higher limits.
Yeah, you got to be way up there, too.
Yeah, over $6 million right now before you pay any inheritance tax. But if you're a niece or nephew and your uncle passed away, there is an inheritance tax in Maryland.
Yeah, so 10%?
10%. If you're a cousin, there's a tax. If you're a friend, there's a tax, 10%. And that's paid through the probate process. And we'll try to explain that just a little bit later, too. But these questions that we're asking, we're talking about who passed away, when, and then understanding their relationship to you. So what are some other questions, Alex?
So then you got to go, okay, we've established a relationship, but then it's like, all right, well, what type of account did I inherit? Is it, there's so many different things, right? It could be a Rolex, it could be a car, it could be a bank account, it could be a 401k, it could be a TSP, it could be a 350 or a 457, it could be all types of different things. And they're all going to have different rules.
Yeah, it could be life insurance, it could be property, all houses, all kinds of stuff. And so understanding what the asset is will then dictate a few things. Some of it's taxation. Some of it is the process of transferring the title into your name. And then there's the IRS rules on what you're allowed to do with money. And we'll have that throughout the show, trying to cover why it's important to know and what are your choices if you're given an account like an IRA, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and you may be listening like, well, if I make a mistake, no big deal, I'll go back.
Right.
Well, that's not always the case, depending on what type of beneficiary you are. So a lot of times, you got to make sure you're making that right decision the first time.
Absolutely. Now, if you just receive the money and don't make a phone call to an advisor or ask questions, you just say, send me the money, send me a check, you might have surprise taxation and other problems that occur because of acting too fast and not really thinking it through. Now, one of the more sophisticated ideas is something about disclaiming, where if you don't want to receive the inheritance and you want it to go to your kids, something as simple as that. If you are a beneficiary and the will has you listed and you say, I want to disclaim it, what happens is disclaiming means I don't want it, but it doesn't go by who you want to get it. It goes by what the will says. So there's certain little things like, I don't want that, and you officially disclaim it. It doesn't go to your kids. It goes to whatever the will says.
Right, or the contingent beneficiaries. And, I had a case like that 2-3 years ago. And some of the companies, they had no problem. They're like, he can disclaim, no big deal. It goes to the other beneficiaries. And some of the companies were like, nope, can't do it.
Yeah.
He's listed, it's done. And I was like, oh, wow. So you got to make that phone call and you got to do the research based on, what's right for that client or what they want to do. And in this case, it was a spouse that passed. He wanted to go to kids, grandkids. Mm-hmm. And another one of those, emotional times where, fortunately he didn't need the money, so he could get rid of it.
Yeah, I had a case where this the client, they had set it up where, if I pass away, my oldest kid gets it all, and then they're going to divide it. and I before the person passed away, I'm like challenging them. I said, do you really want that person to receive all the money at once and then also have to pay all the tax personally and then gift money to the kid, to the other brothers and sisters and the other family?
Yeah, because the brothers and sisters aren't going to want to hear about, I had to pay 30% in tax, whatever it was. They want their part.
So what's their normal advice when it comes to basic beneficiaries for someone that's alive and they're going to list them?
List them out exactly how you want them on that day.
By name, write them all down.
All of them.
If you have 27, let's write them all out.
We'll get an extra page. You'll have to initial a bunch of stuff, but it doesn't matter. Whatever you want written, do it that day.
A named beneficiary actually overrides the actual will that you have. So that means if you have an IRA and the beneficiary is listed as Joe, Joe gets the money no matter if your will says give it to Jim.
Yeah, I know you have a funny, not necessarily funny, but an odd case where the will was to the new wife, the IRA was the old wife.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, and that was a new client. It wasn't someone that was my client, but I found out as I got to know them in the first couple of meetings that that's how it was set up. Now, I had one case where we were looking online because in the first couple of meetings of financial planning, you ask a lot of questions, and one of them is, well, who's your beneficiaries? And then we logged in online to see who it is, and he goes, it's my spouse, and up there was the previous spouse listed. So, and what happens if you do leave an ex-spouse on? They actually get the money. They do. They can get a pension. They can get whatever you list if you put it in writing.
Right, and that doesn't even count on like if there's some type of settlement or whatever. It's theirs, and nothing you can do.
Now, the questions you need to ask, so who would be calling the senior beneficiary? Well, examples would be if you're helping the parent, say a parent passed away, and at the parent's house, you see all the statements. Now, typically what happens is by going to the funeral home is going to ask questions like, do you have life insurance? So you're going to need to have some information when you go to set up the funeral. You're going to have a copy of the will to sort of say, well, are you the personal executor? Are you the one in charge of making these decisions? So understanding who's in charge of what is one of the key ingredients to that very first few weeks after someone passes away. Now, typically the funeral home is going to turn in the life insurance and try to get themselves paid, where they turn in the life insurance policy as a death benefit, and they'll get the paid first, and the rest of it comes to you. So the funeral home is trying to make sure they get paid by helping you with certain paperwork to start. They also usually turn in the Social Security that the person passed away.
And they're also the ones that'll get you the death certificate.
Yes. And there's a certain fee for 10 or 12, and you have to get so many. You do need one for most accounts. Not every account will require an original, but you got to make sure you get the paperwork that you need.
Yeah, and always ask for them back. I mean, they can be tough to get them down the road if you need more. So,
yeah, ask for them back means when you do the paperwork and you say, here, I'm transferring this account into my name. When you're done, can you send the original back to me? And some companies actually want you to give them an envelope, which is just cheap, but that's what happens. So what happens is this. So you are the beneficiary. What do you do? Well, you need to have some questions. You need to sort of organize what's going on and then have a financial advisor to help guide you through it. Financial advisors and financial planning teams like we have at Akers Financial Group, what we have done is we've done this many times for many people where we sit down with them and basically start with an inventory of what the assets are, how they're titled. We start contacting the companies, getting the beneficiary, gathering all the information, and then we create a list item by item and the choices that you have. That's something we're going to cover later is about choices. But the idea is you gather information. That's one of the key ingredients to getting things started if you are the beneficiary.
Right. And then I think you said earlier, there's some important like roles or titles, and one of them was executor. Mm-hmm. And that's from the will?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So executor and personal representative are used to be the person that will represent the estate at the county court to register wills. Also, the person in charge of whatever is written in your document.
Yeah, and a lot of times when we get clients, they are the executor, so they come in and they need a lot of help, and then they realize, oh my gosh, it's so important for me to really set up my estate plan because this is such a nightmare.
Yeah, and that's the byproduct of when you get the call. So you are the beneficiary. Now you got to work on that paperwork, but it makes you more conscious of what you're doing and how you're setting up your estate flow when something might happen to you. Now, Akers Financial Group, we are local. We are independent. We don't report to a big company on Wall Street. We report to you, the client. We do have offices in Forest Hill and Lutherville and clients all around Maryland and all around the country, and a few around the world. It's so easy to begin winning in retirement. You can call us for a free consultation with one of our team of advisors. Just go ahead and call 833-WIN-RETIRE. That's 833-WIN-RETIRE. We will call you on Monday to schedule your free in-person or Zoom meeting with one of our team of advisors. Or you can go to our website at akersfinancialgroup.com or give us a call at 833-946-7384 to start planning for your retirement now. Is inheritance taxable? We'll explain in the second quarter.
You're listening to a pre-recorded show. Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE now to schedule a visit with Brian and his team and begin winning in retirement. Once again, here's Brian Akers.
Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. I am Brian Akers, and here with me today is Alex Monk. We're both certified financial planner practitioners from Akers Financial Group, right here in Maryland, but we work with people all over the United States. So, Alex, a couple questions for you.
All right, what do you got for me?
All right, so first quarter, we're talking about So You Are the Beneficiary. That's going to be our overlying title for the whole thing. And then now I have this question, and the question is this. Let me keep this paperwork out, make sure. It says, is inheritance taxable?
I cannot tell you how many times I've heard that question.
Well, isn't it tax-free?
I mean, it's just so people have so many misconceptions out there. And my answer is, okay, well, let's see. What are you inheriting? Where did that person die? Like, let's start there. What state?
Right, because what state dictates if there's estate taxes. Like Pennsylvania has estate taxes on every gift. Yeah. For a beneficiary.
I think you get, like $100,000 exclusion up there?
Yeah, something I don't know.
It's a small number, but everything above that is taxable. And then it can be based on the account type. Mm-hmm. So it's different. You said earlier in the first quarter that your named beneficiaries outrule the will, or right. They take precedent. Mm-hmm. So that means it's probably a retirement account, or it's a transfer on death investment account, or it could be a non-qualified annuity. It could be life insurance, and all of those have different taxations.
All right, so let's divide it between things that are taxable, and then we'll cover things that are tax-free.
Okay.
All right, so Give me an example of something that's taxable if you're the beneficiary of it.
Taxable if you're the beneficiary. Okay, we'll go with a non-qualified annuity.
Okay, so non-qualified annuity means they put money into a fixed annuity or variable annuity, and it grew over time.
Right. And those gains have not been taxed inside that contract.
So the life of the person that gave you the money, it was tax deferred their whole life, and then the taxation's coming to the beneficiary.
Yeah. And so that comes out as ordinary income, all that earnings in there. And then whatever that the original investor put in comes out tax-free because that's their cost basis.
And typically on those kind of annuities, you're going to have some choices. We're going to cover choices more in depth later, but generally you have about 5 years to take this money and pay the tax. We do like to have a 5-year plan on the income tax withdrawal and part of our planning to make sure you don't jump brackets or pay extra tax as you receive inheritance. If you just say, send me all the money,
it's troublesome.
You're paying all the tax. You get that check, and what you need to do is have withholdings on it. You got to make sure you fill out the right forms.
And some companies don't withhold for certain states, so it can get real confusing. You got to know what you're doing before you do it. And what I like to do, Brian, is map it out, like you said, over 5 years with the client, and so we can go over, all right, here's what's taxable. When are we going to trigger this income?
Sure.
But back to what's taxable, what's not.
Right. So a non-qualified annuity is what we just talked about, and that's about tax-deferred interest. There's a cost basis in there, and you pay the difference because no one's paid the tax yet. That same type of rule works for IRAs.
Right. So let's say it's a traditional 401k or traditional IRA. That money's never been taxed. Okay. So every dollar that comes out has to be taxed. Now, the first year of death, you may not have a distribution that's required if that person is not taking required minimum distributions yet.
And that means if right now the current law is 72 or older, you have to take withdrawals. If they're younger than that and they pass away, then you don't have to ask that question.
Right. So that year of death, if that that original investor has not taken their required minimum, well, that's got to come out before any splitting of the accounts, things like that. So that's another taxable thing that we got to know about beforehand.
Now, in IRAs, there is just a little trick where you need to see if they have any cost basis. And cost basis means if they funded their regular IRA account with an after-tax, like a non-deductible, there is some cost basis to that. And the only way to know that is off of a tax return form 8606. It's rare to have that, but it's something to look for. So we have a retirement plan and IRA accounts. So those are taxable if they are all traditional. If there's a Roth side, that'll be our discussion in a second about tax-free. Let's talk about houses and what we should do when it comes to inheriting a house. So basically, Alex, my question would be is, what is one example of house titling that would cause a taxable event?
So let's say that your mom puts the two kids on the house deed, and it's in 1980, right? Whenever. So, and then she passes here, and the house is doubled, tripled in value. Well, the taxable amount is whatever it was worth when they put it in your name. Whatever the gain is can be taxable for those kids. So in the thought process where they were saying, oh, well, I'll just make things easier for my kids by putting them on the title now, they actually created a little bit of extra tax down the road, assuming that the property goes up in value.
If this usually happens after one spouse dies, and they say, oh, to make it easy, I'll just put my kid on the farm, my kid on the house, and then they don't realize what they have done tax-wise.
Right, and it can be a big number, especially if it's 30, 40 years. I mean, houses can double and triple in that time.
Because what happens with a house, just like stocks, there's this concept of step up in value. The house and real estate get a step up in value. Can you explain step up in value?
So by value, we're talking about the basis. So in a situation where it's not a tax-deferred account, it's just a regular asset, you're not taxed on what your cost is. So if your cost is, let's say, $7 a share, you sell it at 10, you only pay tax on the 3. Well, when somebody passes away, whatever asset it is that you're inheriting from them gets a new cost basis. And that cost basis is whatever the value is on date of death. And there's a couple other, complex valuation things in there. If way down in the weeds. But typically, whatever the value is on date of death becomes that new person's cost basis. So they're responsible for the gain from there on out.
If you become owner after a death, the step up in basis is important to establish that value for the date of death. Stock date of death valuations are very important, very important when you have to figure out what the value is that they passed away, so that when you sell it in the future, you have a cost basis, so you only pay on the difference between date of death and the day you sell it.
And sometimes that can be even a loss too, right? So you could own something and not sell it for 6 months, and it could go down, it can go up, but it's very important to get that date of death value.
So if you sell the house rather quickly, or real estate rather quickly, or even stock rather quickly after someone passes away, there might not be any taxation because of the step up. That is if you own the stock individually. I'm talking about the previous owner, the one that passed away, that they owned it individually. If they own the stock inside of an IRA or anything else, that's taxable based on how it's titled. Like IRA, it's fully taxable. There is no capital gain or step up in basis. Now, what are some other things that are tax-free when someone passes away and you are the beneficiary?
Oh, so the tax-free ones, life insurance is the biggest. We haven't been talking about that at all yet.
Yeah.
But that one just comes to you as a check, typically.
It seems the easiest, and after a while, you wonder, well, why didn't we do this a lot for people? Just carve out a certain amount of money to be inheritance and make it all tax-free, and just, we'll give you a check within a month.
I mean, ideally in planning, that's an awesome thing to do, but
absolutely,
it's hard. Life insurance is not an easy thing to get. You have to be healthy. You have to keep paying on it. You have to structure it right. So, it's the best way. Well, one of the best ways to inherit money.
Absolutely.
I think. The wealthy have been using it to pass on money from generations for years.
Absolutely. The other thing to thinking about when it comes to tax-free is just like a simple bank account, savings account, CD. Those don't have a cost basis. So whatever the value is on date of death, that money would go to you. There's no income tax on using that money. You pay income tax on any interest you make, but typically you don't have to pay any money on the taxation.
And especially if it's a bank account, like let's say it's single lady that passed, so it's mom and your kids are joint on the bank account. People are always like, well, is it taxable? What do I do? I'm like, well, technically it's already yours.
Yeah. It's already yours. There's no worry about what you got to wait for. You do have the death certificate to take mom's name off. There's some other advice you'd have to give about how to handle bank accounts, and we're not covering that right now. Right now, we're talking about tax-free. What's tax-free? The other idea would be a step-up in basis on a stock makes that stock tax-free if you sell it right away. A Roth IRA is an investment that grows tax-free while someone's alive, and then the beneficiary receives the IRA, the Roth IRA, and then they would receive that money tax-free if they take it out.
Right. Now, typically, they have 10 years to get it. Let's say the person died here recently. So our advice, if you don't need that money, let it grow for 10 years.
Especially a Roth IRA. It's growing tax-free already. So one of the thoughts on a Roth IRA is, well, how does it benefit you most? Now, if that money, you can use it and you can fund your own Roth and make it more of a lifetime Roth. I've done that recently on an IRA beneficiary account. These are called Roth BDAs, Roth Beneficiary Deferred Accounts. That's so you don't pay all the tax in 1 year. On a regular IRA and on a Roth IRA, you can maintain the tax-free character of the account for 10 years. The Secure Act of 2020 made that a 10-year rule for most beneficiaries, not everyone. There's some special exclusion for eligible designated beneficiaries, such as people that are disabled or minors and things like that.
Yeah, but typically, you're dealing with that 10-year rule, and you got to be smart with it. And the idea where you said there, Brian, taking that Roth, taking distributions over the 10 years and funding your own Roth IRA if you're eligible is a major win.
And that's all part of planning about, so you are the beneficiary, what do you do now? Well, what do you want to do with this money long term? I try to explain that if my clients are the ones giving it to the next level beneficiary, I explained to them what the client's goals were. These clients want you to use this money for your own retirement, to benefit you throughout your life. This isn't something where we want to spend it as fast as possible, which is the typical American way, is to blow inheritance in under 9 months. But the idea is that inheritance can change your long-term plan. It can make your long-term plan actually happen a little sooner. It can make things a little bit better. It can help get you out of debt that you might be in. It also helps you acquire things you've never been able to do.
Yeah, and I've seen, and I never count on it in planning. When I'm meeting with a client, I think mom's money's her money, but you can change the trajectory of your life for sure.
Right. So when you receive inheritance, and that becomes real, and that's when you start working out how to receive it over time and trying not to pay all this tax on that money. That is true financial planning. Because what we want to do is make sure that we're doing the best retirement, the best financial plan, the best legacy and estate plan for you and your family, so that there isn't all this worry about things. One of the things about retiring and winning in retirement is to have an estate plan done so that if something happens to you, it's done right and it transfers to the people you want it to go to. That's what proper estate planning does. So we recommend that you give us a call for a free consultation to talk to one of our team of advisors. Go ahead and give us a call at 833-WIN-RETIRE. That's 833-WIN-RETIRE. When you call, we'll give you a call back on Monday to schedule an in-person or Zoom meeting with one of our team of advisors. You can go to our website at akersfinancialgroup.com or just give us a call at 833-946-7384 to start planning for your retirement now. Do you know that beneficiaries have choices? We'll explain in the second half.
You're listening to a pre-recorded show. Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE now to schedule a visit with Brian and his team and begin winning in retirement. Once again, here's Brian Akers.
Well, the announcer just welcomed you back, and I'm welcoming you back to Winning in Retirement. I'm Brian Akers, and here today with me is Alex Monk. How you doing, Alex?
Still morning, and it's halftime. I'm all ready to go.
Absolutely. It's the second half of the show, Winning in Retirement. We want you to win in retirement, whenever that retirement may be. That might be 5 years from now. It might be 30 years from now. You need to do the work now to make sure you're winning in retirement. If you're already in retirement, that's an amazing thing. What you got to do is just keep working hard, make that retirement last a lifetime.
Absolutely.
All right, today's show is called So You're Ready. I'm sorry.
So you're the beneficiary.
So you're the beneficiary. Somebody gives you the call and they say, so you're the beneficiary. And then you call your financial advisor, your favorite financial planner, and you say, so I'm the beneficiary. What do I do now? And you do that before you do anything. Don't just start signing forms and bringing the money in. Before you know it, you might pay more taxes than you think. Now, this segment, this second half here, we're talking about the following thing. Do you know that beneficiaries have choices? What do you think we mean by that, Alex?
So there's a lot of different, that applies in so many different things, but it's exactly what you said. There's a lot of different choices. So earlier we hinted at, for example, the Roth IRA, right?
Yep.
You have 10 years to take it out. That's 10 years worth of choices.
Yeah, so the Roth IRA, so if the person dies in February, the 10 years start in December 31st of that year. And then you have 10 years from that. And at the end of 10 years, they're going to pay it all out, all at one time, tax-free to you. It does not change taxation. It doesn't change that ability to be tax-free.
Right. And hopefully the goal is there to get more growth out of that 10-year period.
Yes.
More tax-deferred growth. And then hopefully along the way with proper planning, we're funding your Roths, we're paying down debt, we're doing all those right things.
Absolutely.
But another choice, we hinted at it earlier, was a non-qualified annuity.
Okay.
So that one, they're a different animal and there's all on their own, right? So they have a 5-year deferral option. Mm-hmm. You can take it as a lump sum. You can take it as a stream of payments.
Right.
You can take it over a 10-year period, over a lifetime. There's a bunch of different options depending on the contract, the company, et cetera.
Yeah, so what happens if someone passes away and you're the beneficiary? So we order the options from the annuity company. That option comes with a paperwork and a lot of choices, and we sit down and go through with our client, the beneficiary, what options they have with the money. And in many cases on the beneficiary, we got to just find out more about them and plan their taxable year by year, the next few years, trying to see when is the right time to receive this inheritance.
And what you said there is just hugely important. We have to call this insurance company and say, hey, I'm the beneficiary. So-and-so has passed. I need a withdrawal or a claim packet. And that claim packet's going to be aggressive, typically.
There's a lot of forms in there, and you got to make sure you fill them out right and do everything else. And we're going to explain some secrets about that in the fourth quarter about filling paperwork out right. Now, these choices that beneficiaries have, the idea of lump sum means all at once. That means that if it's a non-qualified annuity that you'd pay tax all in that 1 year, you can actually have tax withholding, and they'll send the check to you and have it worked out. Now, life insurance, typically you would choose lump sum. It's all tax-free to you. Many insurance companies send it to a money market, and that money market usually pays a really good interest rate. And then you can use that money as you need to pay bills like funeral costs, things like that. And then also decide what is best for you and your family long term.
Yeah, they usually call it like a My Choice Control account, or, some fancy name for it. But they're higher interest than you're going to get at a bank typically.
Yep.
And there's some things you can't go back and get. So if you take all your money out of there, and then you're like, wait, the insurance company is going to say, oh, sorry.
Yeah, very true. So the beneficiaries have choices. So if you're inheriting money through an estate, so the estate is going with, say, a lawyer or an executor, and they're working with accounting, they are going to pick most of the answers. Usually, if it goes through the estate, it wasn't the person that passed away. It's in their name by itself. You were not listed as beneficiary on the account, so it's not as easy as saying I'm the beneficiary. If it's from the estate, you're a beneficiary. You get to receive the inheritance, but the estate will actually write checks to you. And then what happens is you also get a K-1 from the estate saying, oh, during the time we were doing all the paperwork, here's the interest, dividends, and taxation you have to pay.
Yeah, and typically the estate's going to have to pay most of those taxes at the estate level.
For income tax, right?
Yeah, for income tax. And then they'll pass on the beneficiary share as well. So the taxation's a lot different there, and you lose a lot of your choices. And that's why we always want people to have named beneficiaries. It gets super messy when things have to go through probate.
Right. So if the person that has the money before they pass away say, well, I don't want my beneficiary to have choices, they can do things called trust. Trusts are where you can control beyond the grave. You can control things such as when they can take money, how they can take money, and who decides those choices. You can say, oh, I'm going to give it to this person, but I'm going to ask that this other person be the guardian, the trustee over that money for a certain period of time.
All the way down to a pet trust, which I know you've done quite a few, Brian.
I've only done a couple that have actually happened. The rest have been in wills and put into trust, just having a little piece of money, buckets of money to provide for cats and dogs after the owner might pass away.
And that, the trust thing, like beyond the grave control, is really the most important thing that you need to remember when you hear trust, right? Because it can last for a lifetime or as long as you want it to. And if you have a beneficiary that you really want to make sure they're taken care of, but they have some issue where you don't necessarily want them to get a large lump sum, then you got to meet with an attorney. You got to get it all straightened out, because there's if you give somebody that can't handle it too much money, it can be a bad thing.
Well, like let's say you're divorced and you have a child that's, say, they're over 18, they're 18 to 35, somewhere in that range, and you're like, well, when's the right time to give money to that child? Do I give it all at once? Well, you need to know that child the best way possible so you can set it up in your trust document or in your will, setting up a trust through there. You have to have something written out, and you got to have the assets go through the will or through the trust to make that trust work. You cannot just have the child's name listed and expect it to be controlled by the trust. You need to have both done if you want to go with any type of trust or control beyond the grave.
Yeah, and that's some of the biggest mistakes we see when we see people that have trust is they're not implemented right, and it's just follow through.
Yeah, I had one case where they had a house and a second house, and it was joint name. And it doesn't do anything for estate planning, estate balance, lowering estate taxes. It doesn't do what they wanted. And then I was explaining how they use their trust, and they have to actually retitle the house now into that trust name, not wait. So when it comes to beneficiaries having choices, let's talk about you're the beneficiary of a bank account. What's that experience like?
Well, it depends on the bank. So
Okay.
certain banks are different, right? But typically, all you really need is you show up with a death certificate if you're listed in name, and then your information and whatever their internal process is, some forms, yada, 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 and then the money becomes yours. Pretty clean, pretty simple.
Yeah, they'll make you open up new accounts, and then you have to understand what you want when you go in. It's a goal, and make sure you have someone that you're talking to that understands the idea of receiving accounts.
Yeah, especially if you go into a bank, you have no clue. They'll probably set you up with a personal banker, and you might leave with a variable annuity and not really know what happened. So you got to go in knowing what my goal is, because there's people there, how do I say it nicely, that don't always want exactly what you want.
Well, it's not really their job to be your advisor. They're just trying to do maybe what's easiest for the bank or for them, paperwork-wise, whatever's going on. Or they might not understand how complex you want to make it. Now, when it comes to IRAs and retirement accounts, and you're the beneficiary of it, your choices can vary based on your age. Like if you're under 18, it can be more than 10 years. But typically what happens with IRAs is we recommend that if you're the beneficiary, you receive it as a beneficiary deferred account, a BDA IRA. This defers the IRA withdrawal over time.
Yes. And huge important thing about these type of IRAs versus other ones. There is no 60-day rollover. So you can't say, I'm just going to cash it out and I'll put it back into an IRA.
I'll roll it over. Yeah.
I'll roll it back in. No.
You can't do that.
It does not work like that.
You have to actually have that money go from the person that passed away, the decedent, straight to this deceased beneficiary IRA. It has to be set up. It has to be established in that person's name, their date of death. You have to have a death certificate. And then the money goes into there. When it's there, then you have choices on withdrawals.
Right. And choices on investments. I mean, you get to decide how you want to invest it, because you need to know how it's invested to provide income for these 10 years or whatever your goal is, right? It needs to match up with your goals.
Right. So IRA title gives you the 10-year rights. The investment that it's in might not give you a 10-year ability. There might be an annuity that has a 5-year payout, and then you have to work with that too. The idea would be if you ever want to get out of one beneficiary IRA, you have to transfer it to another one and work it out from there.
And different, especially you brought it up, just I knew you wanted to throw that wrench in there, though, with the annuities. If they're in an IRA titling, well, then you got two sets of rules. You got to play within both.
Yeah, I don't want to make it too complex as we cover on the radio, but understand is be careful what you're doing. Know that you have choices and you understand what those choices are so that you can make the best decision for you and your family. Like I had a client recently pass away, and then the spouse was going to receive the IRA. Well, the IRA investment had lowered their interest rate, like way down. And I'm like, well, if we take it as a death benefit and roll it to another IRA, we can get a better interest rate. So this makes good sense in that case. In many cases, we'll do a spousal continuation because spouses can continue an IRA and actually transfer it to their name.
And that's the best way, because then unless they're already RMD age, they're not subject to anything like required minimums. So that's really the best way. Now, there's some rules. If you have other bennies mixed in there, they might not be able to do it. So the choices get a little muddy, too.
Yeah, we're trying not to get too deep on all those new rules about the beneficiaries and choices on the 10-year planning and versus spouse. But we're just trying to cover some basic things. Now, if you're a spouse and you're inheriting from your other spouse who passed away and you're less than 59 and a half, keeping it a beneficiary deferred account gives you the ability to use the money at a younger age. If you're over 59 and a half, moving it to your name is probably the best thing to do.
Yeah.
All right. In retirement, we want the biggest worry of your day to be where you're going to drink your morning cup of coffee. Or every day seems like a Saturday, free of stress. Your retirement income, investments, and estate planning all taken care of by the team of advisors at Akers Financial Group. If this is what you want for your future, it's not too late. So go ahead and begin winning in retirement by giving us a call and meet with one of our team of advisors to talk about your financial planning. Give us a call at 833-WIN-RETIRE. That's 833-WIN-RETIRE. We will call you back on Monday to schedule a free in-person or Zoom meeting. Or you can also go to our website, akersfinancialgroup.com, or call that phone number 833-946-7384 to start planning for your retirement now. Checking the right box could be a taxing decision. We'll explain in the fourth quarter.
You're listening to a pre-recorded show. Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE now to schedule a visit with Brian and his team and begin winning in retirement. Once again, here's Brian Akers.
Hello, I'm Brian Akers from Akers Financial Group, and here with me today is Alex Monk. We're both certified financial planners, and we're here to cover our Winning in Retirement radio show. Today's show is called So You Are the Beneficiary. What should you do? What should you talk about? What should you think about? What questions should you have? All very, very important things. And that's what the show's been all about. If you happen to have missed any parts of our show today, you can go to our website at akersfinancialgroup.com, hit the radio tab, and then look down there, and you'll see that our radio show will be recorded and saved there. Usually, if you're hearing this live, you'll be able to hear it by Wednesday of the next week, and then it'll stay on there for a long time. That's a way of listening to the show and maybe hearing different parts again to find out more about what's going on. Now, these shows give us information, gives us thoughts. What you then need to do is act on those thoughts by giving us a call at Akers Financial Group. You just give us a call at 833-946-7384, or you go to the website, akersfinancialgroup.com. Check us out, contact us, then go ahead and meet with one of our team of advisors to go over your exact situation. Now, Alex, you ready for the fourth quarter?
Ooh, it's my time to shine, Brian.
All right, fourth quarter is winning time in many sports. It's where you have a win, you hold tight. If you're down, you got this last bit of energy. You got to give everything you got at the end to make sure it finishes up well. So we got to win well, got to finish strong.
I love it. Do it.
All right, so the information we're covering here in the fourth quarter is the following question. Checking the right box could be a taxing decision. What does that mean?
I think it's just you and your punny jokes, man. You just love them too much. But it's a big deal because I don't know if everyone's been listening the whole time, but some of these decisions that you make when you're the beneficiary are a one and done. So if you check, I want a full distribution on an IRA you just inherited from your sister, guess what? It's all taxable.
Right.
And it's all taxable immediately. So you don't have any options of rolling it back in. There's nothing that you can do like that. So our advice is always take the stretch option if you can, and then let's see where your income's going to fall. Let's see what we can do to plan around that newfound amount of income. Mm-hmm. And my favorite thing, just recently I had a client pass, and we had some money go to her spouse, and then we had some money go to her son. And we'd split it up differently so that they each got, one account was going one place, one was going the other. But what we did for the son is we waited a year. We increased his 401k contributions. We increased the wife's. We got their income down. We were able to keep them under the Roth level, take more money out, fund Roth IRAs, and really benefit them without moving the needle a whole lot on their taxes.
Yeah. I was thinking last year I had a case where the husband knew he was dying. And so him and his wife came in and they said, we want to make some changes before he passes away. We want our kids to get most of the money. Of his money, and because the wife was like, I have enough once he passes away. And so during that period of time, we did our deathbed financial planning, where you take tax losses while someone's alive during his final days, because that loss disappears upon a death. A step up in basis is good on the positive side, but hurts on, you can't take the tax loss on the negative side. The other thing we did is we made the IRA beneficiaries their boys, the two boys, and then we actually spread that out over time. And then I met with each one of them and talked about their situation. What their wishes of their father was to help them now and to their future with that money. And we talked about their taxation and what's best in their situation. So that was a big deal, doing planning right before a death to make the beneficiary change so that the wife actually didn't want to receive all of the money at that time. You know,
and I've been called in at the last minute, and it's a tough scenario. But sometimes there's, people get this news. They say, I got 6 weeks to live, and it's a year and a half later before they pass. So as we're preparing for this, I don't know how to do it. There's no good way to prepare for death, but we look at, okay, what's your current tax level? Should we take some money out and gift it while you're still alive?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of different options if you're in that not so great scenario.
Well, if you have high medical expenses, it does make sense in those final days to take some IRA withdrawals, taxable withdrawals, so you have the medical expense to offset that so that nobody in your family pays tax. So there are sophisticated planning ideas and tools that you need to know about when you have a situation. We talk about financial fingerprint because everyone's individual. Estate planning, inheritance, how you want it to spread is individual to you, your choices. We call it estate flow. Estate flow is, well, what is your wish? How do you want money to flow? When do you want to flow to them? When do you want them to receive it? Having that kind of having that be part of your plan is essential to the total financial planning that you need.
It's quite amusing sometimes when you show a client like, okay, you know who your beneficiaries are. They say yes, of course I do. So then we show them the estate flow, and they say, okay, this is how much everyone's going to get if you died today.
Yeah.
And then they're like, whoa, gotta make some changes.
Right. And the more complex your marriage and family history is, the more complex the beneficiary needs to be. Like first and second marriage, kids that are shared or not shared. It all changes, and it all affects the surviving spouse. It affects the kids when they receive the money. It affects the grandkids. Like you might be funding their college, but if you pass away, it goes to their parents, which doesn't mean their college is funded. So it's all about what your wishes are and making sure it happens.
And sometimes people want to skip the parent. Like let's say the parent has, some troubles in their history, and they want to make sure that the kids are taken care of. Well, I've seen a trust done up where the trust owns a house for the grandkids until 25, just to protect that family. And you got to do it before you die.
Yeah. So the idea of this quarter was talking about checking the right box. So I'm thinking of an example where someone took a lump sum out of an IRA, and basically the box they checked was lump sum. They didn't check to defer it. They thought they did. They received the check. It was cashed out to them. They cashed the check. And then they're like, Brian, I can put that back into the IRA, right? And it's like, no, you can't. You can't do that.
Now, if they wouldn't have cashed the check, there was maybe a chance.
Yeah. I had one awful situation where the client had gotten divorced, but when they got divorced, the one spouse kept the ex-spouse as beneficiary, and then they got back together, and they did not change the beneficiaries or anything, but they were fully divorced and put back together.
But lost the spousal rules.
They lost all the spousal rules, and then when I got involved, the stockbroker they had didn't know about stretching it out and beneficiary defer accounts and how to avoid taxation on that. And so they had already started paperwork to move it out, and I'm like, stop, call and cancel it. Let's reject it all, and let's try to set up a better situation so you don't pay the tax, because you don't have the right for spousal transfer. If you do a spousal transfer and you're not allowed, it blows up all taxable.
Yep, fully taxable.
So there's situations in life where you need professional help, and I think beneficiary is the time. When you get a call that says you're the beneficiary, call a financial planner or call an advisor to work with.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many first meetings I've had with people where it's like, let me pull I'll pull up my work retirement plan. Let me so you can look at it. I say, okay, great. Can you click on my profile there? I just want to see who your beneficiaries are. Oh, it's my, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. No beneficiaries listed. For example, if your old retirement plan just got bought out and now you're at a new one, like that hasn't happened recently, check your beneficiaries. Yeah,
check beneficiaries is a huge thing. I was thinking of a recent case where the mother passed away, gave the money to the son, but this was like about 10 years ago. And so they're coming in for a financial planning meeting. They never met with an advisor. And they're like, well, it's an account my mom gave me when she passed away. I just kept it with that broker. I haven't really met with them. And when I look at the things, and they own investments that were really good for that 85-year-old mother 10 years ago, and that's what they have owned for 10 years. They never reevaluated what they inherited into their own financial plan. And so it's extremely important to examine what are you inheriting and should it fit into your plan. Don't just blindly say, oh, just keep all that.
That's a big response. I see it all the time, Brian. Like
absolutely.
People, they don't want to, it could be emotional. It could be, just push it away. But it's like, I don't care what it's invested in. And then they realize that it's all in short-term bonds that their 90-year-old grandfather owned, and they haven't made a nickel.
Yeah, that's one case where this client's friend passed away at a young age and gave the money to them. They didn't really want it, so we talked about it. Let's fund their college, and we did this like 16 years ago, and now they're in college. And the amazing thing is that the investments have grown to fully pay for their college. So it's like another emotional event where that friend, through investing that proceeds, fully funds their kids' college, which was just amazing legacy for that person. Estate planning, beneficiary planning is legacy. It's basically, I love you to the next generation. Doing it right matters. Make sure your beneficiary is who you want, and it's not Uncle Sam. It's who you want to receive that money.
Yeah, and I've seen so many handshake deals turn nasty at death. Okay. Everyone plays nice when everyone's alive. Well, the second someone's not alive and there's real money on the table, people really start changing who they are. And it gets ugly sometimes. And if you do the planning ahead of time, which we'd love to have done with our clients, it's all settled. And you take the emotion out of it because people act weird when there's money involved.
Well, especially when it's not clear, and then you have multiple trustees, multiple executors, and they got to work out the answer. The more you do proper planning, like pre-planning the funeral, pre-planning the trust, working it out so that the decision is, this is what they want. And they follow through exactly what you want. I think that's the most important thing to do. It might sound morbid, but I think when you're healthy and everything's clear in your mind, it's the best time to do that planning. Typically, that's part of that original retirement plan. Yes, we retire, we get our income, but we invest like we're going to live forever. We do estate planning as if we might die tomorrow. We don't put this off until a day in the future because that day might come sooner than you think, and then you die without a will, and then that's a whole mess by itself. So what happens is this: Akers Financial Group, we're out there to be the advisor that helps you and your family, to guide you from where you are to all that you need done, to make sure that the money is there for you while you're alive and goes to your beneficiaries that you want. So winning in retirement is just a simple part of retiring properly and staying retired. But financial planning in life is about so much more. Make sure you do proper planning to make this all work. Thanks very much for a very good show, Alex. I appreciate it.
It was awesome, Brian. Always fun.
Yeah, this show, So You Are the Beneficiary, is an important thing to understand. The key thing to take away is this: who do you call? Call a financial advisor to make sure it's done right for you. We want you to go ahead and give us a call for a free meeting. If you need to make that call, you get a free meeting with one of our advisors to sit down and talk about you and your situation. You can either go to our website, akersfinancialgroup.com, and scroll down to schedule a meeting section and let us know you'd like to schedule your free meeting. That's at akersfinancialgroup.com. Or you can call us at 833-WIN-RETIRE. That's 833-WIN-RETIRE. We will call you on Monday to schedule for a free in-person Zoom meeting with one of our team of advisors. Start planning for your retirement now. Go to akersfinancialgroup.com or give us a call at 833-946-7384. Thank you for listening. I'm Brian Akers from Akers Financial Group, and we want you to be winning in retirement.
You've been listening to Winning in Retirement with your host, Brian Akers of Akers Financial Group. Akers Financial Group offers securities through Archedios Capital, an SIPC and FINRA member firm. Advisory services are provided through Archedios Wealth. Akers Financial Group and Archedios do not share any common ownership. Neither Archedios nor Akers Financial Group provides tax or legal advice. Advice given on winning in retirement is general in nature, and one should seek further advice from their financial advisor, broker, attorney, and or tax accountant before investing. Be sure to read each prospectus carefully to understand all the risks associated with each investment. Examples and scenarios shared are meant to be for illustrative purposes only. Past performance is not indicative of future results.